So this has apparently blown up a little bit with people really incensed about the fan service in My Dress Up Darling, and with Marin very clearly capturing the hearts of a lot of people. Is the fan service too gratuitous? G'day weebs, I'm the jaded one out of the lot of you, and since the start of winter 2022 anime season, My Dress Up Darling has definitely enraptured a lot of people. You only have to see the fan art plastered all over Twitter and Reddit, and people are already declaring Marin like the waifu of the year. It's crazy. This furor has obviously raised a few eyebrows at the first few episodes, talking about the fan service. And to set the scene, My Dress Up Darling is about Wakana Gojo, a high school boy whose family runs a Hina doll shop and is entirely fascinated and entranced with his family's livelihood. Unfortunately, due to this fascination, he has generally been ostracized and lives in fear of being labeled like a weird, crazy otaku. And to be honest, he kind of does that to himself. When he is forced to sew some of the doll's clothes at school, however, the local gyaru, Marin Kitagawa, stumbles upon him in the arts and crafts room and instantly starts begging him to sew some cosplays for her. This obviously comes with some scenes where Wakana needs to measure up Marin to ensure that the patterns he draws up for his sewing fits her, and this is most prominent in episode 2. This is where a lot of people have taken issue, I think. She shows up to get measured up, and her first instinct is to wear a swimsuit bikini rather than underwear, since she thinks that'll be less embarrassing. I mean, I guess, sure, but you could have shown up in sports gear and still achieved the same effect, and you wouldn't have had to deal with all that embarrassment. Anyway, regardless, there are some people who are generally supportive of the series' message about breaking societal norms, enjoying your hobbies, and generally being supportive of other people's non-destructive, unconventional hobbies. They do also, however, feel that the gratuitous fan service in the second episode really undermines that messaging. On the one hand, this anime clearly wasn't created in a vacuum, right? The creators had a choice as to what outfits and shots that they could put together, and there were definitely other choices they could have had that would have had the same intended effect. You can see kind of like the male writers in a room trying to justify why a bikini makes more sense than anything else, and, you know, teenagers or whatever. Something like that. It's probably their, like, justification. On the other hand, it's cosplay, right? You need to measure up somehow, and having someone who is experienced in tailoring or sewing, someone who's experienced in tailoring or sewing is probably better to measure you than necessarily like a novice is. For example, like if I was to get a suit, I would let the tailor measure me in as accurately as possible, because otherwise then he can't make the suit for me, and he's obviously a lot more experienced than I am, where my only experience really comes from like sewing on patches onto like a sleeve. So if you want to get on your high horse, I think you've backed the wrong racer here, buddy. To be fair, if you've been puritanically pursuing this angle throughout most of anime, like, hats off to you, but I also don't really think this is the poster child of peak male fantasy that you think it is. Have you seen Domestic Girlfriend? That's fairly recent. Or if you want to go older, we can go like Kainfa or Tolovru. Heck, even like Mushoku Tensei, like really recently had Roxy masturbating within the first few episodes, but that didn't really kick up a storm. So in my opinion, any pundit that says that this undermines the message because it is pointless fan service is a knob. The fan service has a point. It's to make sure you get why Wakana is uncomfortable. It is in your face, it is gratuitous, it is confronting for that reason. Look, there is plenty of fiction out there that uses erotica to play a role to enhance the story's meaning. For example, a really crude one, a Western one, right, is 50 Shades of Grey. You know, massive franchise built off, some might say misrepresents, I don't know, I'm not into it personally, so I can't say how accurate that is, sadomasochism. entirely built off the entire really weird dynamic between Christian Grey and whatever the lady's name is. I've forgotten at this point. What's her name in 50 Shades of Grey? I've actually forgotten. Christian and... What's her name? Christian and Anastasia. Oh, that's a really weird name. All right, yeah, Christian and Anastasia. Sadomasochism, you get it, right? It uses that as a vehicle to push the story forward and have them go through a character arc. I don't know, I haven't personally read it, or watched it, but, you know, a lot of people seem to enjoy it. If you think that's also just fan service, because by all reports it kind of is, fine. Then Vladimir Nabokov's Lolita, right? Super old book from the 20th century now, which is like probably in the like maybe a century old at this point. But that's arguably got even worse material in it, and it's on Time Magazine's top 100 novels. And why do these stories have such confronting content? Because it serves a purpose to the storytelling internally. And I'm telling you that in, like, My Dress Up Darling, I almost said the Japanese name, in My Dress Up Darling, that this fan service does serve an internal storytelling purpose. It might not be as sophisticated as in Lolita, but the imagery is used to accentuate Wakana's discomfort at the thought of accidentally committing sexual assault. Look at him. It's ridiculous how much he's trying not to do that. Could this series do without the fan service? Absolutely. As a manga reader of the series, I do hope that it does eventually move away from the fan service in the next few episodes. Currently, at time of recording, there's only been 3 episodes out. But the series goes on to really showcase Marin's and Wakana's chemistry as a couple, as the 2 leads. Coupled onto that, I just think that it's almost inevitable to have something confronting about this if you're trying to push such a message about societal norms, that when you do engage with cosplay and people's bodies and appearances, both in society and physically, you're just going to get something confronting to someone. I just don't think that this series is the one you should be all up in arms, Chief. I think it's trying to use it to its best of its ability. Anyway, regardless of all that, the series so far has been actually really good, and I'm hopeful to see where it goes. Again, it's only been the first few episodes. But I think that about does it for me for this one. If you yourself want to go to a massive cosplay event at some point, maybe check out my Foreigner's Guide to Comiket, where I go through how you can actually find some people that you might want to photograph, or how to dress up, things like that. Or if you've enjoyed my take on this, I do have some other videos about anime from last year, from last season. Anyway, I'll see you on the next one. Have a good one.